Hello
Hey,
there.
Ken. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, yep. How about you? Can you
I
hear me all
can't hear
right?
you at all. Oh, there you go.
Oh.
Oh, great. Good. Were you there for a few minutes? I was thinking you weren't there, so I was looking all over for your phone number.
Yeah, yeah. It just had me holding in the Zoom waiting room for a little
I'm
while
so
there.
sorry. I just
Oh,
thought you
that's
weren't
okay.
there, so I've been somewhere else looking. How do I reach you if I need to reach you in the future by phone in case this happens again? Because that was my bad, not yours.
Nope, no worries. It's 860 well,
Yeah,
1-860-208-1409.
beautiful. All right, with that Northeast U.S. accent, the one I grew up with. I love it.
Yeah. There you go. So so this is a blog. I'm writing. It's not
I,
a
yep, I saw that. I saw the one you'd made for Tyson, and I was really impressed with your, as always, articulation skills.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I've done a few already. So Crystal Hill, she's got one in there, Stuart, Steve. So yeah, so I'm just interviewing people, and the whole idea behind it is, there is such a wonderful group of humans who I think of you guys as ripple makers. You have this unique contribution and you're letting it out into the world and ripple spread. And the focus of the blog is less on it's partially on the work, but it's more about really connecting people to the human, so they get to know you and they learn a little bit about who you are. And if that resonates with them, I'm hoping that they'll reach out to you and it
Beautiful.
will help you find people that are willing to work with you.
Yeah. So
So,
you take the recording and you write down some of the things that you found useful. Do you know that one really cool thing I've been finding this to do? Because a lot of what I share, people will take that and put it out on social media or whatever that intervention and that ritual and that breakthrough was you just did, put it out Zoom
uh-oh.
recording and I turn them into a YouTube recording. I can push the button that CC closed caption and then show transcript. And I have the entire, it's not exactly right because it's predictive text, so it makes mistakes. It's everything
Right.
we've said. If you like, I can send that back to you and also make you a co-host so you can have the recording without me sending it or anything.
That would be actually, the transcript would be wonderful. I
I
take
thought so.
physical notes, um, but
Yeah.
having and actually there's someone else, a guy named Joel that I interviewed. He recommended an AI program that actually connects right to Zoom, and it does that. It does like the transcript and it gives you a summary. The only problem is it doesn't work on a tablet, and I usually use an iPad. So
What
so
is the name of that
yeah.
program?
I
Can you send
had
me the
it.
link?
Let me see if I can find it here. It's
I
one
think I
word.
found it in one of our Facebook things. It's a monthly subscription kind of thing, I believe.
It's actually, nope. It's called Fathom,
Oh yes.
Fathom, and it's free. There's no cost to it. They have like a paid version for like teams, for sales teams and stuff, but it does require, as close as I can tell anyway, I got to research it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think you do need to use like a laptop or something. I don't think it works on a mobile device.
Well, I do use a laptop as my preferred device. Um, is it PH or F?
It is F. Yeah,
Because
Fathom.
yeah, because I did download the app and I couldn't get it to connect with my computer. I don't know why. I was because I heard about this from Payman Lorenzo. He's done a few different um, videos with me and loved it. And he said, oh, get onto Fathom, but I couldn't get it to connect. So I don't know where to go from there. Maybe I could write to their customer support.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I got to the point where it just, I could download it, but then it wants you to drag it into an applications folder, which you can't do on mobile devices. So I kind of got stuck there. Uh-oh. I think we froze up. Oh, there we go. Are you back?
Sometimes where I'm living, because I'm way off grid and I'm connected with a very strong cable to a Starlink mast,
There we go.
it goes in between different satellites every once in a while. So we freeze. It freezes for 45 seconds when it's going from
Okay.
one
Okay.
satellite to the next. Don't take it personally.
I never do. Technology, it's wonderful when it works. And sometimes it just it gets in the way a little bit.
Okay, so given our conversation, because I don't know how to use Fathom yet, I've not been able to figure out after I load it how to have it enter into my system. It just doesn't. I'll Google customer support, and because I know how to do it with YouTube, CC, closed captions, show transcript, I'll make a copy of the transcript. I'll just send it to you. It'll just take me a short time to do
Perfect.
that. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, so basically the way this works, I've just got a few questions to ask.
Yeah.
And I watched a few YouTube things that you've done, including the interview that you did with Lewis, and
Oh yeah.
which was great. You guys chatted for a while, and
We chat like there's no
yeah,
tomorrow. That
so
was
that gave me a
before
little bit
he
of the background. Yeah,
That was before he I introduced him to the serving circle. That was in March or something like that. And because we've been
yeah, I think
reconnecting,
that's what it said. Yeah,
I know we've been connecting online through Zoom for about 6 months now, and it's so good to connect with an old friend. And I realize we have so much to share. When we were in our 20s, we were having, I remember, all kinds of health food lunches in New York City when I was spending time with my parents there when I was 25. So it's nearly 50 years ago that we know each other. Unbelievable.
that's
He's such a
amazing.
cool
Yeah,
guy. Have you connected with him?
yeah, yeah. Actually, we talked earlier in the week. We ended up chatting for like 2 hours, and it was just he has so many wonderful stories.
He's a
He
great
had
storyteller. He's an
me
amazing
laughing so much.
communicator. And coming from New York City myself, I think he grew up in a little bit more of a um, dangerous neighborhood than me. So he has this kind of street boy edge to him. Don't fuck with me. And I
Yeah.
like that. And he's got a big heart.
Yep.
And so I'm really happy that I introduced him to the serving circle. And he's given such value to so many people. It's great. And your partner, I'm so
Yeah.
happy to
No,
assist her if she's
absolutely.
wanting to get on and take her through a similar journey as I had with you, because I know, besides you asking me questions, I'm curious, of course, how some of what, because we haven't really spoke for like a month or two, how some of what we set in motion, because that's part of what we'll talk about, I imagine, anyway. I remember we were focusing on some of your key strengths, and that was you being fun, rewarding, energizing, engaging. Remember before we got into compass, map,
Yep.
navigation, and transformation. So just curious before you
Yep.
dive into my questions, how that you've been using any of that, how that's been is rolling out for you.
Well, that's those are all kind of central to our work. And it's been interesting because we've been in this kind of interesting are you familiar with the term bardo, the Tibetan term?
Yeah, the different states of going through death. I
Yeah,
know
like the
that.
in between, the Bardo's
Yeah.
the in between, and that's kind of where we've been. Some things have died off, and we're looking to see what's expressing itself. So, and part of that has been a little bit of a recreation in where our focus is and what we're doing. And my partner, she's like, I think I told you she's the speaker. So part of
Yeah,
what's
you did.
happening is
Yep.
she's got a podcast that she's delivering on, and then I'm doing the writing. And
Got
we're
it.
just kind of interweaving that. and working in a couple of different areas, but focusing mainly on the virtual. So we're creating kind of an online entrepreneur dojo for entrepreneurs called the Integrated Entrepreneur. So we're working on that, and and this blog is kind of a way to amplify that. She's starting to interview people through her podcast, which is evolving. She's done about 60 something episodes of that now. So yeah, so it's we're still like in a clarifying phase, which we've been through many times with many different businesses. So we're just kind of continuing to focus on that part before we start figuring out the storytelling and the marketing, because you got to know what story it is you really want to be telling.
Well, when
you
she's
know
ready, either alone or with you with your writing, I would just love to have the opportunity to engage with you both, because I'm sure I'm going to find something to perk there that would bring
oh
your
yeah.
connectivity to a deeper level of engagement and connection and rapport. That's who and how I am with everyone all the time. So, I can offer
Yeah,
that a
yeah.
gift. You've already given me a donation, and I'm grateful for that. And your kindness and generosity, and even this today. So please allow me to give you more time as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's really just it's going to be the timing of it.
Sure.
Just the way our schedules work, it's a little nutty getting us both focused on one person at the same time. So and she does a lot. Actually, she's very involved with Toastmasters.
Yes.
So yeah, so she's actually at this point, I think she's an area director. So I think it would be very, very interesting for her to hear your perspective on speaking based on how much of attention she's paid to that over the last couple of years, especially. So yeah, so we'll make it happen sometime in the next couple of weeks. We'll pin
Do
that
that
down
before I
and do that.
leave. I've become invited to be this enrichment speaker on a luxury ocean liner's maiden voyage from Honolulu to Sydney on the 1st of October. So I have 2 weeks, and I can do something in the next 2 weeks that would work well.
Okay. That's exciting though. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Amazing. Yeah. About 4 years ago, one of my advocates of my work, who I met when I was the first international presenter for the first national conference of the National Speakers Association, NSAA of Australia. And one of the people the woman who was the president back then of it, saw my methods, which are interactive and getting under the surface and helping even the most seasoned speakers be more vulnerable and engaged. I love that stuff. And then she freed up, which comes from a Catholic background, her style. And we stayed in friendship for like 15, 20 years. And when I was visiting her up here on the Gold Coast, near where I'm living in Australia, near Brisbane, about 2 years, 2019, she said, "Have you ever been on a cruise ship?" And she said she's done that quite a bit. So she gave me the name of a cruise ship, and it's Line, and I signed up. And of course, I got her, kudos and high recommendation as a storytelling speaker. So I went on a cruise. Interestingly enough, you might even have heard about it. It was a cruise in November to December, on Christmas time of 2019, before all this, what, hit the fan. And this same exact cruise, pause, 1 week before, brought a whole bunch of people from Australia to New Zealand on their day trip. During the day, it's starting to ring bells, isn't it? They took people
Yep.
out on the active volcano in White Island, and about 15 of them were killed. They died.
Yeah, I
And
do
so,
remember hearing about that.
yeah, it was really something. And so I was on the same exact ship with the same exact staff, and the woman who was in charge of picking up all the dead people's clothing and all of,
Oh,
speaking with the police and detectives. I had an opportunity beyond my storytelling to help to give her a body therapy session and clear the patterns of giving to everybody else all the time and leaving herself out. That seems to be one of my main
yeah.
superpowers, is doing that with everyone, because it must be something I'm here to learn too. And I felt like no matter what I was doing as a celebrity performer, presenter, storyteller, that one engagement with that one woman felt like, this is what I came here for, to help her release
Yeah.
this old pattern of giving to everybody and leaving ourselves. So after that particular journey, I thought I'm never going to go back on again with the vax requirement and all this stuff. Never, you know, I never. I felt a bit lonely on the journey. But then out of the blue, I got a phone call from the woman in charge of this events for speakers company. And she said 4 months ago, hey, I need someone who's been in Hawaii that can speak about the Hawaiian legends thing to be on an upcoming cruise for 17 days. Can you be my speaker? And go, okay, well, I'm time to get off of
That's
being
awesome.
off the grid all the time and leap into the unknown. So that's what's so exciting about it is because I've been pretty much close to home for the last year and a half in this gorgeous spot and land in this national park, but I haven't leaped to the other side of the world. And now the restrictions have all been dropped, at least for now. So it adds a certain level of added excitement. So to answer your question with a
That's
very long
awesome.
response.
No, no, that's wonderful. Actually, and it's funny, I was on the last Royal Caribbean ship to port out
Yep.
of New Jersey,
Yep.
literally came back in March of 2020 and they shut everything down. Like I got off the ship and that was it.
Well, that's so
There were no
interesting.
more cruises for like a
No more
year after
cruises.
that.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
was told it was shut down, and this is a Royal Caribbean cruise. It is the same.
Oh, it
It's the
is. Okay,
same
cool. I
line.
love Royal Caribbean.
It is that, and it's the name of the ship is Brilliance of the Seas, and it's literally its maiden voyage.
Yep.
It's never been on the water before, so oh, I'm excited. Just 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, you're gonna have so much fun. Yeah. Yeah, we're looking forward. I'm looking forward to get next year on the Icon, that brand new giant ship that they just built. That'll probably be the next one that I'll go on.
To bond with her after 25 years, 26 years of living here.
Yeah, no, that is so cool.
It is.
So, so let me so we've kind of talked, this is kind of cool because we've sort of woven through the first question, which is just
Yeah.
where are you from and how did you end
Yeah.
up where you are now?
Yeah, cool. I can answer that. Now, this isn't
Yeah.
something you're videoing, but I'm videoing it. So if I want to put any of this on YouTube, are you okay with that? Or you prefer to keep it
Oh,
quiet and not?
absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
because
this is for you. The whole
yeah,
idea is I'm just
beautiful.
creating something that you can share the blog. You can take
Yeah,
the what I write and,
yeah.
paste it into your work, whatever.
I
Yeah,
might because
feel
I
free,
love
please.
creating these videos with people. Just yesterday, I met someone that I met in another speaking circle that's called Edward Zia's networking group, the LinkedIn group that I heard about from Adam Sinecki. And I met one man, an elder like myself, who I wound up connecting with that lives in Thailand. And yesterday, just yesterday, I had a chance to connect with him and do a deep dive. It reminded me, two men like you and I talking of the movie, the classic, wonderful 1981 film called My Dinner with Andre. Have you seen that movie?
I have not. No.
Yeah, I recommend it, and I'll send you the link for it. It's a movie just about two men talking, but they're talking about what's going on today, 43 years ago, 42 years ago, and their intimacy and their engagement and their connection and their camaraderie. They're just talking. And it was so, what they say in Hawaii, talk story brilliant that I put it on my YouTube yesterday. And I do that with a lot of these because a lot of my conversations with people are breakthrough moments for all of us. So
Mhm.
I love sharing this
Yeah.
with the world. I love it. I love it. Um, when I was a national speaker, connected with the National Speakers Association in San Francisco, a woman there who was the first female president of the National Speakers Association, named Patricia Fripp, who was a celebrity hair cutter in England. She saw my style on stage. She's like, Gary, you're like Danny Kaye. You've got this amazing ability to be like what you do with your body is extraordinary on stage. What you need to do is just do as many speaking and presentations as you can. Get it right out to the media. Share your messaging because it's brilliant. This connectivity that you offer it's such an inspiration. So I follow her advice. Okay, now I'm going to answer your question. I was born in New York City.
Okay. Because I know you were on the West Coast at some point too. That was what from
Well, that's
you
the
mentioned
whole
that with
point.
Lewis. So I'm
You
really
see,
curious how you wove through these places.
yeah, well, it's really simple. Watch my hand. I started off here on the left side for you, which is in our Western culture where we see when we're writing in English, we start from the left and we move to the right. So we're programmed, we Westerners, to see movement to the right being movement towards the future. So here's my movements through my life. I'm going to make a little map for you because I love using my body, and it just makes it so much easier to see and hear and feel and connect with, to do it graphically, viscerally, and visually. Here we go. I was born
Yeah.
in 1951 in New York City. Without going into the long story, the short version of it is when I was 20, I moved to San Francisco. When I was 30, I moved to Hawaii. When I was 40, I started visiting New Zealand, Australia, and Bali. When I was 50, I moved to Australia. When I was 60, I created a place while living in Australia, a holistic center that I was a co-founder of in Bali. Just before I was 70 in 2020, when you know what hit, I was invited to be a member of a detox and holistic center in Koh Phangan Island off the coast of Koh Samui in Thailand. So my movements have been a westward migration, a migrating Jew, you might say, because I have that background. I've been moving west my entire 71 years. That's been my pull. And now I'm back to this longitude between Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne. That's where, at least for now, I'm at home here. So that's how did I do it? Why did I do it? It's a great story. There's a great beginning of this exodus that happened. You'll love this story, and I can share it with you also if you're interested. It's also one of my wonderful videos that I've created just spontaneously at one time. I'm just making notes with links to send you. Dinner with Andre.
Yeah. Oh,
Here, yes.
awesome.
Okay. One day
Yeah.
in 1973, I had already graduated from Johns Hopkins University as a champion springboard diver, and I didn't get into medical school. I was a pre-med psychology major. I was constipated and trying so hard to get in. I applied to 50 schools, and it just wasn't flowing. I had the impulse to meet with one of my fraternity brothers, Tau Epsilon Phi, from Baltimore, Johns Hopkins University's father, for some reason, who was a psychiatrist and lived in Boston, to ask him, because I thought I wanted to be a child psychiatrist up to that. That was my feeling or my thought, my belief, my own vision. And I went to visit this man in Boston, and he saw me speaking, and he asked him, what am I going to do with my life? And he turned to me and he said this, son, I see in front of me this young man full of creative energy, such such beautiful humanistic qualities. And I have to admit, what I hear you talking about when you're talking about being a medical doctor, because he was a psychiatrist, medical doctor, you're talking about prestige, power, influence, money, and security. I don't get this is your essence. I get this is you. He didn't say the words, but pleasing your parents and attempting to fit into the mold that they, with good intentions, set you on a certain path. Yet I have to say, son, young man, that the field, 1973, of humanistic psychology, gestalt therapy, the whole human potential movement is burgeoning. You would be such a leader and innovator to shine the light on people with your creative, humanistic approach to life. Go find your own way, son. I left there. I walked out into the streets of Boston, and it's the first time I had this physical, visceral experience of knowingness in my body. I was going down the streets, and I said to myself, shouting at the top of my lungs, yes, yes, yes! And my whole body was singing, soaring, radiating, every pore sweating with this feeling of, this is for me to do. So I told my parents, taking 2 huge suitcases from New York, I'm going to see you later. I'm going to go check out these California schools of professional psychology in San Francisco and other places. And I just went. I moved. My mom told me just before she passed away that she cried 2 times in her life, but she was a hard woman. And she said, one of the times I cried is that time when you left because I knew you were never coming back.
Mm.
And so that started this leap into the unknown. And because I went to San Francisco and had no idea what was going to, I didn't get into this California School of Professional Psychology. I discovered the remedial massage, polarity therapy, structural, postural integration, deep emotional release work, bioenergetics, polarity therapy. And I leaped with all my physicality and love for the body into this domain. Out came all of this creativity. Out came paintings. Out came songs. I had no idea it was buried inside me. And in that moment in San Francisco, I made a decision. I said to myself, similar to what I say on the surfing circle, I didn't have the coin, the adage or the terminology then of I'm an archaeologist of the soul, but I had the sense if we are all like this, having physical tensions on the surface, underneath emotional self-talk holding patterns, keeping these tensions and dysfunctional aspects of our personality in place, and underneath that, we all have this huge creativity that's buried in the landscapes of our bodies, the chief instrument of communication. I am going to dedicate this life to creating pathways for others, as I had found for myself, to free the physical layer, the emotional layer, and to give devotion to and expression to the creative elements of fellow humans. And when this happened, about 10 years later, I had the opportunity to, when I bought this jester head on a stick, this beautiful, called Sir Cedric's Goodhead, with this beautiful androgynous looking jester head with the three horns, hat on a little stick. You can imagine it. It's in my next room, but I don't need to show you. You can picture it, right?
I can picture it.
And yeah, I had an opportunity with the Reincarnation Institute in Los Angeles, where I was living at the time, to leap again into the unknown and go to Honolulu, where I had now seminars set up and my coaching, my body therapy, my creativity. And when I went to Honolulu, I met someone who was in the costume department in the University of Hawaii. And I took to her and I said, because she loved my body therapy, everybody loves my body therapy. It's so transformative. She says, make me that jester hat, make me a Harlequin outfit, and I'll trade you. And it was like 7 or 8 sessions. It was a lot of work for her, and it was a lot of devotion of my body therapy. So I came out, people come out and they come out as being gay. I came out as a court jester when I was 30, when I again leaped into the unknown and moved to Hawaii. Every time I've leaped into the unknown, enormous gifts have come to me of associations, creative abilities, clients, girlfriend, things that I could never have planned on had I led a traditional conservative, everything planned for me life. So the point I'm getting at with you in this story is that my westward migration has been leaping from one unknown to the other. And now I've become a specialist in helping everybody else move from their familiar, structured, held in, boxed in relationship with themselves, their life, their career, loved ones, and to leap into the next unknown, because I am now an expert, because that's what I've been doing with my whole life. There we go.
So funny. It's just that I'm listening and it's interesting just on a personal level, the parallels, because I think I told you I was a springboard diver at the University of Connecticut.
You
And
were.
yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
so I competed for a couple of years, mainly on the East Coast, but it was NCAA typical,
Yeah.
thing. I was going to school. I don't know why, because I was told you needed to go to college. And, my leap was dropping out to teach martial arts for a living. And
Yeah.
my parents freaked out. My dad was like, you could be a doctor, a lawyer. And I'm like, none of those fit me. So similar, in
Very
just
parallel.
that
That is
kind of,
so cool.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
going into the
yeah.
diving for a minute, what was your favorite dive?
Actually, I loved the inward off the 3 meter. I love the inward 2.5. just from
Wow.
a pike position. Yeah,
Tough
I don't know. I
position.
hated reverses. Like
Okay.
I took out the back of my head on a reverse dive, and
Right.
that
Right.
I shied away from it from there. But yeah, I love it. And I also really just enjoyed just the forward dives, just especially trying to hit like a 3.5 tuck, was
Wow.
always just,
Could you come out
open
okay? Could you come out straight?
most
What's
of the
up?
time. There were a
Oh
few
my
times,
goodness.
there were a few face
Oh,
plants. That water was freaking hard when you were going that
at
fast,
that speed, when I was in 10th grade, when they had 10th grade, which is, basically when I was 16, and what do they call that, the fourth level in the secondary school. I don't know what they call it anymore. I was getting into springboard diving. I was quite good, and probably was some of the same championships and meets, NCAA and Middle Atlantic competitions in Baltimore and
Mhm.
Washington. Came in fifth place, whatever. Anyway, one day I was practicing my 2.5, and I went up from this 1 meter, and I pulled my left arm stronger than my right arm, and I started spinning this way on my side, and I landed on my left eardrum and punctured and ruptured it. And that was
Oh
a
man.
powerful moment. It was just the beginning of my diving career. And I kept diving for years afterwards. I life pinged into my head. The last dive I did wasn't competitively. It was just practicing. It was an inward hike from the 1 meter, and I landed on my left shin and sliced it right open. So I stopped diving
Oh,
competitively. And when I moved to San Francisco and got into body therapies, I started to develop an understanding about breath, mind, body coordination, and became a much better diver than I ever was before without competing. It was like learning how to combine breath, sound, movement, intention, visualization, Anselye, guided visualization, picturing something and then manifest. So,
yep.
you know, these patterns have repercussed through my life. When I was in high school in New York City, I went to this highfalutin, very academically superior and challenging. You probably heard of Horace Mann private school in New York City, and everybody was getting into Ivy League colleges. I don't went to Johns Hopkins, and in that place, what am I leading to? Bum, 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 bum. Give me the last train of thought, and I'll come back to that.
We're talking about diving. So, and you were just
Um,
saying the breath and, the visualization of the movements and how leaving the competition behind,
yeah,
you actually became
yeah.
a better diver from those other disciplines that came into it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll come back to it if it's meant to happen. It was something about that process. Oh, no, it was. Yeah. Thank you. I went to college and high school. I didn't even try, but I was a really good athlete and I was a really good student. And in that highfalutin high school, which was, very academically challenging and superior and, very, 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 what do you call it? A oyster has a piece of gran and grain of sand and it turns into a pearl, not out of a good marketing idea, but because it's irritated. So I had all this, frustrating and beautiful creative energy. And in high school, we had as I graduated as a senior, it's only about 100 kids in the class, and I got the award as the senior for the one student that had the best combination of academics and athletics. And the reason I'm saying that is my whole
Ah,
life has been about that, connecting the mind, readjusting people's self-talk through body therapy, through coaching, doing it in now multi-sensory ways that are sensual, that are connecting with all of this. So it's my whole life has stemmed, I have a feeling, from the physicality, the viscerality, and mainly I was a gymnast and track star too, but mainly the body through the springboard diving that, use the expression, springboarded me to a
yeah,
way of being
yeah.
in this life that's ever always been the same. And I'm really been true to that. While girlfriends, wives, places that I've lived have all changed, but I've stuck to my guns with the body therapy, with the presentation coaching, and the awakening creativity. That's I've been married to that no matter what else has fallen apart. So that is a
That's
long
been
way
like
of
the
answering your
core. Yeah.
question. How did I start out and how did I get here? So I've just answer that with a few branches on the tree you didn't ask for. I realize that.
No, that is awesome. Actually, it's funny, even the track, like I got recruited to the track team in high school because I was a diver and they wanted a
Okay.
pole vaulter. So because they figured the body control. So and I
Yeah,
did, and I enjoyed pole vaulting, but I actually got into running at that point too. So I ran the
that's,
3200,
I love this.
was my favorite. And and eventually then the martial arts, so I fought for about a decade, in the ring and did, kata competition and stuff. And then as I reached a rank where they retired me from that, and then it was racing mountain bikes for a decade. And so same kind of thing. There's always been some kind of movement that has framed all of the work that I find so much joy in. And it's but I love competing. So I've always found, like, I've moved from, like, now it's obstacle course racing. So that's been, the latest thing I'm doing now. And so I
So
love
cool.
having events to prepare for and compete in. It energizes me. But
I love hearing
I
this
totally get the
conversation.
movement thing. Yeah.
This is really cool. Devotion to motion. What more parallels between us? So I was a great sprinter, and along with being a great sprinter, I was encouraged when I became captain of the track team to be a pole vaulter, which I didn't become. I didn't do it. I just stayed to my springboard diving because in springboard diving in the East Coast, our season started in October around this time of the year, and it went all the
Mhm.
way till March. It was like 6 months long, and I didn't have any interest in pole vaulting, but I did in being a great broad jumper and a great
Mhm.
triple jumper.
Uh, triple jump. Yeah,
Triple
yeah.
jumper.
I I was terrible at that. I tried it. I was not fast. So I was better on the,
I
like, the middle to long distances. I was a terrible
gotcha.
sprinter.
It's so funny.
I
The
couldn't
things that go on
accelerate.
and on. I love the physicality of acrobatics so much that I created a gymnastics team for my school when around that same age, and I wound up doing the flying rings, which I had found out around that same time was just disbanded from the Olympics because it was too dangerous. And but I loved it.
Oh,
I loved
wow.
spinning and twisting and inlocates and dislocates and you know
Yeah.
not quite the iron cross, but different things I could at that age and say do with my body.
Yeah, yeah.
Just amazing, amazing stuff that we have in common. I'm really pleased that we're having this conversation. No wonder we connect so well. Oh my goodness.
It's no, it's funny just that so many different little just parallels there, you know? So, okay. So here's the next question for you. Um, who do you feel called to be? And you've answered this a lot, but the second half of it is how it's reflected in your work. And what I'm really kind of looking for is just connecting people to you and who you are to them, or for them. Like, you know what I'm saying?
No. Please say it in a simpler. When I do my presentation coaching, I use these three expressions. Say it in the simplest, shortest, strongest way because you said about
Right.
5 things. I want to know exactly what you want to know.
Okay. So, how does the you as a person manifest when you're working with someone?
How do how does myself as a person manifest when I'm working with someone? I need a clearer question, more of a tangible, physical, measurable. What's it look like? What's it sound like? What is the nature of
Yeah,
your
I
work?
can give
What's the
you any.
content? Yeah,
Yeah, I can, because I think I kind of know. So, like, you have an amazing amount of expressive vitality,
I
just
do.
in, it's wonderful. And it reminds me actually of my mentor, who was still just so energized, throughout all the decades of his life. And
Oh,
so
beautiful.
there's this vitality that you bring forwards. And I'm imagining that when you're working with clients, that's spilling over into them.
Of
So,
course.
like, where some people, so like when you talk to Stuart, for example, Stuart Elliott, it's this kind of, he's got that conversational hypnosis thing going. So there's questioning, but it's a slower rhythm. It's kind of
Right.
gentle. But
That's
for
right.
you, there's just this vitality that's being expressed
Yeah.
both for verbally and physically. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that that's pretty much what it's like when you're working with
Oh
people.
yeah. Yeah. I'm the same person.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what I kind of figured. So like I said, for a lot of people, they're not quite so like when I'm interviewing people, they're not always quite as connected. As far as how who they are is directly reflected in the way that they're working with the people that they're working with.
Sure.
And a lot of times there's this kind of, we end up pulling back a few layers of realization for them.
Yes.
But this is literally what you do. So I think it's such an of course for you. You're so tuned into this that there's not really a need to answer the question.
Well, I can reflect on the question rather than answer the question. One, I'm touched by your reflection and your observation and feedback as to how you see me. I love feeling seen because a lot of my life, particularly as I started to individuate and realize for me to be able to be the unique human being that I truly am, or so these days they say, as I truly art, I could not fit into any mold that was given to me from before. And I had to find and create my own path, which I have done. If there's any one thing I'm proud of more than anything, and any one place that I feel rich, richer than any other way that I feel enriched, it's in this individuation and development of myself as a soul, as a character, as a personality, as a commanding presence. And now, since I had a near-death experience 7 years ago with an emergency spinal surgery from a tiny cut on my right shin from riding my push bike that became a huge staph infection, I was doing a main presentation
Oh,
on the
wow.
9th of September 2016, couldn't move, was in such pain. And after getting an MRI and a CRP test, creative reactive protein test to determine how much infection, 44 was the normal, mine was 400. And they said, you're going to have your back emergency surgery today. Otherwise, you're going to go into sepsemia in about 4 hours. We're going to lose you. So I've chose to upgrade from that experience. And my devotion now, I feel like I've got a second chance on life with every soul I meet, Ken. Even more than before, I was already vibrant and full of energy at every age. At 71, you wouldn't know it. I had this amazing, it's always been this way. Yet now that I'm at 71 and a seasoned elder with all this experience behind me, I am dedicated with everyone I meet more than ever, as well as with myself, to upgrade. If
Yeah.
something breaks down, if something falls apart, my body, my finances, my relationship, or the creation, whatever it is, I choose, and with everyone I'm with, I bring them to this place of upgrading now, shifting the story now. So I'm committed. I'm deeply committed to transforming as swiftly as possible, as sustainingly as possible, people's relationships with their body, their partners, their communication, their creativity, and their contribution to humanity. That's what my book's about. Get up, stand up for your life. That's who I am. And so even more than ever, I'm saying this to you, I feel this dedication. If I never see someone again, my sun and moon are both in the seventh house of partnership. So everybody I meet at any instant, I feel I'm in partnership, even for an instant. And so I have this huge devotion to freeing all souls from just like I was. See, when I was having all that creativity emerge, Ken, in my 20s from all the body therapy and the digging out and the tears and
Yeah.
the fears and the sadness and the creativity that came out, I did not know that my mom's grandfather played clarinet for the Tsar in Russia, and his brother was an artist. I had no idea. My parents were suppressing my creativity. Oh, darling, how's your math going? I want to show you my art. How's your math going? It's like it was so pushed down. And so when it came like a volcano rushing out through me, I realized that my passion to do what I'm doing, and this is answering your question, is coming from a place of I've been oppressed. I felt like I never was seen or felt or understood for who I truly art back then. And now I have this huge present station focus to free all souls who've been similarly oppressed, whether they're bisexual or creative or the third world, or they don't feel like they fit in. I have had that experience so much myself that what drives me, it's not money. I mean, money comes, but because of the energy that I flow with, it's because I've been suppressed that I can help others who are similarly locked up, people in mental institute. I've worked so well with those who are severely held back because I know what it's like, and not quite so extreme, but I do. And in past lifetimes, some readings have been that I had some tremendous gifts in different lifetimes, and my eyes were gouged out, or I was thrown off waterfalls when I was living in water in Hawaii 300 years ago, because they saw me having so much power as a young one that they were threatened, some of the leaders of the tribes and so on, and they confined me or chained me up so I couldn't express. And so in this life, I have this huge volcanic inspiration that people feel like, God, where did you get all that energy? New York, firstborn Jewish male is part of it. Yeah, it's this energy that taps me into how deeply we're all repressed, suppressed, and oppressed, and to find pathways to free us all out of that. This is what drives me, Ken.
Yeah, what's interesting, I can see, and this is it's just another interesting thing. Just reflecting on, there's a capacity that you have. Another thing my mentor had. I'm imagining that when people express whatever it is that they feels constricted in them, they don't feel judged when they interact with you. And I remember with my mentor, that was one of the most powerful things. Is it didn't matter how horrible you thought what you were going to tell him was, he was unfazed by it. Oh, I think we might have froze up there.
You
Oh, there
froze
we
for the
are.
last 45 seconds, so
Yeah.
repeat that. Yeah.
Yeah. He just, no matter how horrible, what you thought you were going to tell them, he was unfazed by that. There was no sense of judgment. It was just, he would say, it's interesting. It doesn't have to be important, and there is this kind of exuberance to see what was behind that, and that's the sense I get. So it's just, yeah, and it's a cool thing because I think, and this is why I'm doing this. There are a lot of people who, they don't know what they don't know. So they're sensing, they're recognizing within themselves that there's something, there's resistance, there's a blockage, there's trauma, whatever it may be. But they don't know that there are people who represent opportunities for them to be guided along a path that's not what they were taught. So, so it's not about going to Western therapy or getting, a med or whatever. It's, and maybe it is that. I'm not downplaying those things, but they're just not realizing the richness and diversity out there of people who could serve them. And
Absolutely.
we don't know what we don't know. So, those signals get amplified and people recognize, even if it's not you, if they know there are people like you, now they know how to look in a more effective way for the things they need to be, the best they want to be in their life. So, yeah. So
It's a
that's my
great.
pitch for the value of what you do.
Well, I know it's really valuable to hear your feedback. And for those who are ready, I'm what people have been looking for all their lives. For people who are used to being in the familiar container, I won't call it the comfort zone because it's really the discomfort zone as I see it.
Yeah,
The discomfort
yeah.
familiar zone. It's not at all comfortable, yet it's familiar. So I totally reframe that. It's threatened. A good example is 15, 20 years ago, I was doing a presentation at a convention in Sydney, doing what I do, helping people be more free and flowing and focused and fun in their presence and presentation. And a woman came up afterwards and said, God, you're so free on stage. How do you do that? Come, let me have a session with you. So she did. She came to have a session with me. And in the session, she said, I want presentation coaching is what she said. In the session, because she's a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and that was how she was presenting herself. But of course, I saw right through it. I said, what is it in you that's been constricted? What is it in you that's kept you? And she, came up with her version, which was, immediately connected with it, no hesitation. When I was a baby, when I was really young, my daddy and my brother stripped me naked, put me up on the billiard table, and shot billiard balls at me. I feel so humiliated when I'm standing in front of people because that moment, tears, water falling down her face as she said this, returns. I say, great, not great that you were, that you had the pain, but great, and it is important. It's not that it's great that you can identify it. Now that we've identified it and been able to give it a name for what it truly was, tears streaming, let's replay the moment and give it a different ending so you have a new self-talk that becomes your new welling, telling, compelling way of presenting yourself. And we did. And it came up to be something like, it's safe for me to present myself on all stages of life. And I had her sing it, whisper it, shout it, mouth it, mime it, write it down, do it in do it in I, you, she, we, they. That's my multisensory tool that I've developed. And at the end of the session, she was screaming down her face in gratitude. She looked at me and she said, I thought I came here for presentation coaching. I said, oh no. I've just given you the most powerful experience of your life in unpacking this terrible thing that happened to you that's haunted you all these decades since. If I just give you presentation coaching, here's how you move with your hands, and here's what you say with your voice, and this is what you do with your words, the verbal words, the vocal sounds, the visual gestures, I would be putting Band-Aid on an open wound. And that's not what I do. I get right to the source of where the raw pain and terrible retraction is, and I help turn it around. We just did that. What you do with this energy is up to you. She never came back. She couldn't handle it. She was more comfortable in her discomfort because it was familiar than putting on new clothes, because it was too much of a stretch for her to go past what she'd been doing over and over for decades. So some people love what I do, and some people find, whoa, too much of a intent, too much of a gradient. I can't leap into something unknown because I need to have all my speeches prepared and structured, and I need that. Not really, but it's just playing out the old way. So I am a force to be reckoned with. For those who love it, I'm a god for them. You know, I'm a mentor for them. I'm really powerful for them, and I'm just being myself in humility. I'm just being who I truly are. And when they love it, their life is almost instantly transformed, and they never look back. And it's not for everybody. I'm not for everybody.
That's I think that's a very common theme in all the people I've talked to and worked with through the years. There's an element of polarization that I think has a lot of value because, I mean, balance is an illusion. It's just a dynamic between opposing forces, and we're attracted to certain things and repelled by our nature, And the funny thing is that can also flip, where the person that's repelled at one stage in their life ends up being attracted at a different stage, because we're all in that state of evolution and flow and change. I love that. So it's very interesting how that happens. And I've had that experience too, where I've worked with people and, they're like, nope, don't like the questions, don't like the way you're making me think. And I'm like, all right, that's okay. And if I can recommend them to someone else, I will. And then I've had people like 15 years later, they come back,
I had an experience yesterday in turning this around with someone I met through one of our entrepreneurial circles. And she is someone that does biography writing. She was really interested to meet with me. So I met with her. It was just yesterday around this time. And I took her on a bit of a journey because she's now, she's done this for many different people, and she knows that she has a way of helping people bring out more of their colorful, vibrant persona through writing their biography. And I asked her to share a little soundbite of what she does. She said, oh, no, I've got to have it all scripted. I can't do that. And I went, well, that's the whole point, to have you let go of feeling like you have to write it down. Let me give you a simple formula. And I do. I use my P formula for every point you make. Integrate that, punctuate that with an example or a story that multi-sensorizes or gives a feeling of how people can relate to that point. And then the application, what's in it for me from the audience's point of view. one point, one example, one application. I call this the cycle of communication. And once I gave her a structure to be able to say, this is what I do, and she started going, pointing on her fingers. I help people with the who and the how and the why.
Right.
What would happen if you say, I help people with the who, the how, and the why? You know, your version of that. And she came alive with that. She said, oh, this is really cool. And then I mentioned to her that I'm going on this journey to Hawaii as a Richmond speaker and speaking about the different Polynesian legends and tattoos and Gauguin. And she said, Gauguin. I said, Gauguin. She said, Gauguin. This is my favorite artist. And I'm looking at the background in back of her, which is kind of dull and boring and ordinary, you know. And I said to her, what is it you really love to do? She said, well, I love to bring out the story and the color with people's biographies. And I'm like, I have an idea for you. If you're willing to step up and move to a whole different level of engagement. Now, this is like turning around her entire view about how she has to come across more masculine, representing 1, 2, 3. And this is more of an interactive,
Right.
nurturing and feminine and intuitive approach, connecting the intellectual with the intuitive. What would it be like? I'm inviting you next time you present, whether it's with me or people that you're talking with, to have in the background a beautiful poster of Gauguin. So when you speak, people get your full aliveness and colorful personality. You say, oh my God. And so here's someone that was ready. And it only took about half an hour to get to that stage. So for someone who's ready to go from the structured to the expressive, to move into the unknown, whenever I leap into the unknown, that beautiful Zen expression, leap, and the net will appears. Whenever I've leaped into the unknown, and whenever I encourage others to leap into their own unknown, tremendous gifts of perception and expression, of relationships, of career opportunities, partnerships emerge because they can't plan. When they leap for something large leaps to meet them. It's that. It's a simple formula, and I follow it with every breath I take. This is who I art. I want to mention that to you because for those who are ready, this is a huge opportunity to step into one's fullest expression, authenticity, body-centered connectivity, speaking from the core of one's being. And yeah, this is what I stand for.
I love it. So, okay, so here's the final question. And this is thinking in terms of if you were to boil it down into one sentence, okay? So when you think about the people that you help through your work, what is your dream for them?
What is my dream for people in their desired outcomes in working with me? If I could boil it down into one sentence, is for these souls to liberate the physical stored energy, the emotional holding pattern, and awaken one's fullest self-expression and creativity to embody their most fulfilling life.
I love it. That's beautiful. That's perfect. That is perfect.
Wonderful. I'm glad with all the words and voluminous flamboyance that you've been getting from me today, with going on and on from one story and lyrical expression after the other, that you could get me to practice my own medicine, speaking in the simplest, shortest, strongest, in the fewest words. I love it.
Yeah, well, and it's always it's such a cool thing because it's for me, it's been incredibly inspiring, this project, because when people reflect on that, it's, and because this is what you do, their heart comes out, like it's literally just their heart unfolds, and whatever they say isn't, it's not coming from up here. It's coming from this emotion, this spiritual center, that's generally speaking just a synopsis of their life. All of the practice and all of the years and all of the challenges all just manifest in this, I don't know, this beautiful sentence, so it's one of my favorite things. It's incredibly powerful.
I love it. And
uh,
I'm glad you waited to the end to bring it all together in its
yeah.
simplicity. The simplest, strongest, um, and most powerful. I often feel when I'm teaching that when I can take a person's expression and minimize the words, it has more impact. And then we can add the branches on the tree. Once the roots are there and the foundation, then it's
Yeah.
easy for people to flourish and create flowers and images and extensions of where they came from. But it all comes from that inner core statement. I
Mhm.
trust standing on a firm, flexible foundation that supports me. It's safe for me to share my voice and message with you. And then to see how that spins off in the thinking, in the speaking, in the actions, the interactions, and the dreams. So for me, it's a combination of science and art, of intellect and
Yeah.
intuition, of the male and the female energies. And this is my devotion as well, to represent in my modeling a way of balancing these hemispheres of
Mhm.
polarity. So whoever speaks, whoever shares their wisdom, their essence comes from this balancing, artful, vital, expressive, moving place, moving presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and isn't it interesting? I mean, if you look at like a lot of the Eastern traditions, one of the worst things that can happen is stagnation, so, and
Mm,
that's whether it's acupuncture or Qigong,
mm,
it's all about generating movement, and removing those blockages so that there's flow, you know, and
mm.
that's really, you're giving people a tool so that they can be dynamically engaged in the living of their own life, you know? And
Well said.
isn't it interesting how trapped we can get?
Mm,
And you don't know often that that stagnation is occurring because
mm,
you're just being you,
mm.
So, which is also interesting. I can see where it could, for someone who's been stagnant and now all of a sudden you're trying to break those blockages up, that could be a little disconcerting.
At first, at
Where
first,
there's
y-
some
you
movement
know,
where there was stillness for too long.
no, exactly. It rocks the boat from familiarity, where it's again safe, quote unquote, to return to what's familiar. And by making the unknown, the unfamiliar, multi-sensorized, people start to develop this beautiful passion for and delight for the new, the unknown, the untried, the pioneering path, because then this becomes the new default program because it's so much more fun
Yeah.
than the old
Yeah.
litany, that people return to that more and more often, and then that's where they come from now on. It's
Yeah.
it's a process. It's not an instant thing. Yet often people awaken to it immediately, and then the old patterns and habits come back until the practice, because it's a practice, an ongoing practice of
Yes.
multi-sensorizing one's self-talk. So it shows up in the thoughts we think, the words we speak, the actions we create, the interactions we participate in, as well as our dreams, living our dreams awake. Yeah, it's a practice, a
Yeah.
moment to moment practice. It never ends.
It's so funny. And I'll give you one more little parallel. The
Mhm.
reason I dropped out of college and decided to be and this is like in the early 1990s, people were not teaching martial arts professionally for a
All
living,
right.
but I had come in for a class early, And this was right around the time when children had really started to show up in martial arts schools, because there was like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Karate
Oh
Kid,
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So I walked in, been thinking about teaching. I taught swim lessons, that kind of thing, and saw all these kids moving, sweaty, vocalizing, learning. It was the most dynamic learning environment I'd ever seen in my life, and I was instantly hooked, instantly.
I
And
get it.
it's because of what you're speaking about. It wasn't sitting at a desk having information shoved down their throats and then trying to regurgitate it
Uh,
back. Yeah, yeah, no, it was none of that. Oh my God. And it was and the other thing that was interesting though was I was always I didn't like the idea of in traditional education where you get them for 9 months and then they go on and live their lives. Like you don't get to be part of their journey through the different arcs of their lives, and potentially have these multi-generational connections. So, and that was the other thing I loved about it. I mean, I have students to this day that I've worked with them for 30 years, 3 decades. I've watched them from children to young adults to parents, and now they have children and
wow.
those children, so it's just, yeah, so it's incredible. And I think the connecting pieces, you talk Jing Qi Shen, which is, the your intention, the mind, the Qi is, life force, and then the Jing is the embodied manifestation and expression of it. Yep. And how all of those things come together, those three treasures align, and then you experience heaven on earth, So
I love it. Would you
yeah.
spell that for me? I'd like to look this term up and do some research and studies about it. How do you spell that?
Yeah. So Jing, there's a lot of different spellings, but Jing
Yep.
probably would be, and then Chi, usually Chi,
Yep.
and then Shen, Shen.
Beautiful.
And if you look up like, Qigong, whether sometimes it's spelled Chikung, other times you'll see it
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Gigung. Yeah.
I'll look it
But
up. You're very inspiring. You are an inspiration yourself, my friend. I'm looking forward to deeper diving with you, your partner. Please let me know when you'd like more time with me, and I'd like to gift that to
yeah.
you. You've been very generous in many ways, and I'm going to turn off the recording for now and look forward to sharing this video both with yourself as a transcript, as well. I'll send you the actual recording. Just let me know when you've downloaded it so I can take it off my Zoom. Then other people can
Okay.
see it too. Let's turn this off now.